Magic and Dark Souls, a combination as comfy and easy as Pyromancy and Dark Souls, or Strength and Dark Souls, or Dark Souls and Dark Souls, or me and Priscilla. Now, I've actually done a Sorceries only run. It was the Baby Easy mode video from a long time ago. In that run, I joked that the game was so easy with Sorceries, as long as you go way out of your way and take down Artorias at a low level and get Darkbead. So I thought, what if instead of sweating to get the tactical nuke, we just went through the game with the basic magic missile spell? Will this be hard? No, probably not, save for like the DLC, but hey, sometimes it's just about having fun. We remember how to do that on this channel, right? I am definitely not breaking my soul on the world's worst Sekiro mod or anything soon, TM. But if you're looking forward to that, make sure to subscribe so you can see it when it comes out, and without further ado, sit back, grab a drink, or don't, I'm not your mother, and enjoy Dark Souls 1 Soul Arrow only. Starting off, the only class I can pick is the Sorcerer, and I named them Bleach B-Plot. Let me know if you understand why. Lemon, good to see ya. Don't worry, I don't have anything to attack you with this time, so you get to live. For once, I'm actually able to play the Asylum without doing mental gymnastics, as Soul Arrow is already equipped and I just have to pick up my catalyst from here and am good to go. Asylum Demon, being the tutorial boss and the fact that it is the earliest of games, is a very easy boss. To be clear on the rules of this run, I am only allowed to do damage with Soul Arrow, so no other spells, no swords, no smoldering good looks to make them putty in my hands, nothing, just basic bitch magic missile. I did originally think to put a twist on this run, like what is the minimum amount of soul arrows needed, but that's more math than I want to do, so I'll leave it to some cool guys like Trev the Dev, he's a cool guy that likes math. Anyway, after just a few soul arrows, the Asylum Demon goes down. Now, you might think the first thing I would do in Firelink is level up, the game even tells me to do that, but no, I have a different plan for my 2100 souls. Instead, I head down to Anor Londo and talk to my least favorite, or at least tied for least favorite NPC in the game, Rickert the Dickert. For the low price of nearly the entirety of the Asylum Demon's soul, I can buy a copy of Soul Arrow. And since the Sorcerer starts with 15 attunement, I can actually just equip it immediately, giving myself 60 casts. Now, you might be thinking that that's overkill, especially considering I can one-shot these hollows, and for early game, it honestly kind of is. But part of the challenge here will be getting through the areas with enough cast to handle the boss at the end. Most people, myself included, do generally just run by the enemies, but there are some places where it's safer to take it slowly, Lower Burg for example. Now you feel like number one, shining bright for everyone. One day I'll be the main character. And one day I'll practice this jump so I stop messing it up. This happens a lot more than I would like it to in this game. As you can see, I've made it to the Taurus Demon with only 21 casts after clearing everything out. 21 from 60 is, oh, let me bust out the calculator, yep, carry the 1, divide by Chuck Norris. More than 30, meaning if I only had one Soul Arrow copy, it wouldn't be enough. To be honest, this issue really is only, well, an issue, very early game, and in a specific late game place. But that's a problem for future me. With 4 arrows to spare, the bull has become soul-fried yakiniku. Speaking of delicious yakiniku, I have the dragon make instant jerky out of the hollows. And with that, I finally level up, 5 points into int for more damage and 1 into vitality for not dying. I wonder if I can get to the other elevator immediately. Okay, well I can, but what does that do aside from trap me with the enemies up here? After definitely not nearly dying to the Baronic Knight, I kill him and loot the Firekeeper's soul. I then make my way back through the Undead Burg with a slightly more powerful Soul Dart attack, headed for the lower Burg so I can free another important individual. Or so I thought, but it turns out I forgot the doll key! I love that hollow closed the door like he saw me murder his buddies with magic and he decided he didn't want any of it. Over at the Undead Merchant, I purchased the Residence Key and now free Griggs. I also pick up the nearby Sorcerer's Staff because dual-wielding Catalyst is badass. You know, you might think having this super narrow passage for fighting would be good, harder for the enemies to avoid my spells, but honestly, it's super frustrating and having the high ground doesn't actually help me here. Alright, I need poise. This glass pea shooter build is not working. Fighting these wonderful, amazing, god-awful dogs tells me I'm not exactly ready for the Capra yet, but I did want to push through here just for the Firelink shortcut. Oh come on, that wasn't even FromSoft trademark jank, that was just straight up wall hacks. After fighting my way to the gate, I can throw it open and now solve my other problems. First, I grab the Ring of Sacrifice for later, then I'm immediately glad I didn't put it on as I thought it would be funny to transform my shins into shrapnel bombs from 100 meters up. Fortunately, my bonfire was the one before Taurus, so fighting my way back down to Firelink isn't really that hard. The souls are on the bridge, but I make the jump no issues this time. I tell Griggs I want to be his friend, buy Soul Arrow from him, and then don't talk to him again until I need something. No hard feelings, it's just business or regular high school. I equip it immediately, bringing my total uses of Soul Arrow up to 90. Then I level up Attunement once to get a 4 slot for later and the rest into int for even more damage. Then I make the long trek back to Darkroot Garden where I fall off this ledge and nearly get an unwelcome tongue whipping from that frog ray. At the top of this path, I grab the Wolf Ring, which will provide me with sufficient poise until I change my armor. Spoiler alert, while I do change my armor, is purely for a more important reason, fashion. At this point, I decided to take on the Moonlight Butterfly for some easy souls, mostly because I actually have a ranged attack and thus can hit him while he's floating down. I actually got insanely good RNG with him deciding to land after only 3 attacks. Why I can't have that when I'm doing a melee run, I don't know, but it's offset by the fact that I kept shooting the rock, as that clearly posed more of a threat than the massive man-eater insect that can shoot moonbeams at me who is about to cosplay C4. But even with that display of peak monkey brain, the boss goes down after about another minute of magic missiling it. Now, 10k souls would be good for some levels, but I have another plan for them, so instead I make my way to the Bell Gargoyles. I use the power of windows to my advantage and snipe the Chandler, then plow down the horde of lucky Rhaenyra victims that stand between me and my prize. Going into this fight, I have a nice amount of arrows, more than enough, assuming I don't miss my shots. It did get a bit sketchy when I stupidly pushed the second gargoyle while pincered between them and getting hit by the first, so I was locked into place, but I was able to squirm my way out of it, and after taking down the first one, the fight is in the bag as I'm able to just outrange the fire breath attack, meaning the second garg just stands there getting pelted in the face until he dies. Up top, I ring the first bell, then use my 20k souls from those 2 bosses to buy the Bellowing Dragon Crest ring from Griggs, who has now outlived his usefulness, but there is no reason for me to strike him down. At this point, I was more or less as prepared as I wanted to be for Capra, so I headed down to take him on. First, I opted to fight near the door to avoid aggroing the second dog, and was able to take out the first while face-tanking the Capra Demon's massive machete. But after that, I wasn't really able to find a good time to heal up safely while not going too far into the arena. That anime plot armor did come through for me though when I survived an attack on 1 HP in a dream. Eventually, I said to hell with it and did run in, aggroing the second dog. Fortunately, I was able to take it out before the Capra caught up to us, meaning the fight is now mostly free. I say mostly because I have definitely skill issued here before, like all of us, right? But in this case, I was able to pull out the win first try. Now, I did take the Master Key as my starting gift, the only correct choice, so I could just go straight to Quelaag, but I figured why not pack a little more punch before doing that. So I ended up making my way to the depths to get some free levels off the Gaping Dragon. I do make a quick stop to save Laurentius though, as he will give me a hand later. Heh, I'm so smart. If I had a nickel for every time a sorcerer character of mine died to these torch hollows, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but fuck these guys. I take into 29, then roll against this wall for a while until the Chandler shows up. Yes, he can hear this. Yes, I enjoy Illusory Walls videos, don't you? Time for the dragon that gapes. I really should reword that sentence. Damage is pretty good when hitting his weak point, and since this is a ranged attack, I'm in no real danger, at least I get stupid, greedy, or both. I do, just for the fun of it, cut off his tail with Soul Arrow. I'm not able to use it, obviously, but I mean, hey, that was fun, right? Getting some dragon tail, I need to write better sentences. Anyway, after a couple more arrows, the Gaping Dragon is now cosplaying as 14,000 alligator shoes, and I use his souls to level more int. Yep, the damage is steadily increasing. That's a good sign. The damage immediately feels underwhelming again. Now, I could backtrack out of the depths and go around, but there is something I want that would be on my way if I just went through Blighttown normally. My normally. Not like Baron's normal. That would involve flying through the ceiling until the sun exploded, killing everything in the zone in the process. The toxic blow dart guys can proc their Giga Poison in one hit thanks to this armor not giving any decent resist, but hey, that's fine. Either A, I just don't get hit, or B, they will drop the Blooming Moss for me. Right? This thing is terrifying when you have to get close to it. It's a joke when you can hit it from far away though. Anyway, power within my oh, you piece of shit. And he didn't even drop the cure. Okay, guy. Okay. Idiot. Okay, this one heal should be enough if I book it to the bonfire.
Who's the idiot now?
Alright, that makes 3 of these guys and not a single Blooming Moss. That's actually kind of crazy. I had more than enough heals to make it to the bonfire, but I actually got overwhelmed and then backed off the ledge, but amazingly I survived and was able to recover and make it to the checkpoint. Happy accidents, I suppose. Speaking of Quelaag, I was a tiny bit worried about this fight. That is until I hit her with my first soul arrow and saw the damage was way higher than I thought it would be. She has a decent health pool, so I kinda figured I would need to use power within or at least hit her ugly half for the extra damage, but nope, body shots are enough. Though I did end up shooting my magic load all over her. Was it as good for you as it was for me, Quelaag? Ow, my pride. I ring the second bell, then decide while I'm here I might as well take on Ceaseless, and by take on Ceaseless, I mean steal his dead sister's clothes, then push him into a chasm. What, do you think all big monsters have a happy ending? This isn't a Pixar movie. I then put on his dead sister's clothes. Hey, at least I didn't do it in front of him. However, with the hood, I am too fat to fast roll, so I do keep that off. At this point, I have hit 40 in intelligence, so I start putting levels into vitality instead, then begin my hike out of Blighttown. Back in Firelink, I find that Anastasia has evolved to become a ghost type, so I grab her clothes and orb, then proceed towards Sin's funhouse. In it, I grab Hush for literally no reason, then watch as that Snake Man fails at his Indiana Jones cosplay. And with that, I have freed one small hat Lucas, who I will talk to later. Now it's time for the Iron Golem. Honestly, more damage than I thought it would be, and 79 arrows should be more than enough. This fight is stupidly easy. While he does have a ranged attack, he just kept wanting to melee me, so he lumbered forward and I just kept backpedaling while shooting him in the dick with some soul arrows. With his defeat, we have reached Anor Londo, the midpoint of the game. So far it's been smooth sailing, but I wonder if that's about to change. I smartly decided to use the Iron Golem's souls to get a bunch of levels of vitality, then started making my way downtown, blasting fools I'm O&S bound. I almost slipped off this ledge here, but I am an elite gamer who would never fall off the rafters. Yep, that's never happened, I swear. Then, with my 9,000 IQ brain, I taunt this man into falling off the ledge, and I have safely arrived at the cathedral, or castle, or great hall, or whatever the hell this place is. For fun, I invaded Lautrec to avenge Anastasia. A little late on that pop-up game, but thanks. Something funny did happen here. Their AI got stuck in a loop where they kept trying to run up the opposite stairs, but then decided it was too far to go all the way around, and thus dropped off the ledge, and repeated that forever. I wish they didn't have fall control on. I would have loved to watch them just slowly break their ankles over and over again. Alas, I had to do it the old-fashioned way. Right, O&S, one of the few fights I thought might be problematic in this run, only because there are two of them and Magic Missile is starting to feel more like Magic Nerf Dart at this point. The plan was pretty simple: take out Smough because he's the bigger, less dodgy target, then for phase 2 create distance and make Super Ornstein shoot lightning over and over while I hide behind a pillar using his size disadvantage against him. Aside from the usual BS and Smough's hammer stopping my projectile for 0 damage, something strange did happen. Do you see here how Ornstein animation cancels his gliding attack? Yeah, I don't know how or why, but he did it several times, and what's worse is he could suddenly animation cancel into it. Meaning he could be walking and then dart off at the speed of Surprise Spear Enema. He even did it in phase 2 like he was wave dashing in melee or something. I don't know, I have no idea how he started that, but I hope he never gains that ability again. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to execute my perfect plan as my soul arrows don't provide sufficient range. Still, the fight wasn't too hard once it was a 1v1, and before long, he falls. More levels into vitality to make sure I'm less likely to be dead, then I talk to Guinevere, who bestows upon me a massive walk that will be used to make some stir-fried great souls. At this point, I return to Firelink to buy my 4th and final copy of Soul Arrow from Logan, then I restore Anastasia, who is grateful but says her tongue is impure. Lady, why do you think I brought you back? Slotting that copy of Soul Arrow brings me up to a staggering 120 cast. Surely that will be enough for anything this game has, right? Jane, why are you putting foreshadowing on the screen? Anyway, I'm off to the Demon Ruins to take on the Lapse in Memory as I have forgotten to place the Lord Vessel. Don't forget to mark that off on your Doomwolf bingo card. Okay, but serious question, where exactly were we keeping this bowl? Is it like one of those don't ask where the swimming trainers keep their Pokeball stings or what? Ow. Ow. Well, Demon Fire Sage was the first boss to kill me, but he won't be the last. That being said, the fight isn't that hard. My attack finally feels like it's falling off damage-wise, but even with the damage being terrible, I have more than enough cast to take him down. Funnily enough, I actually forgot to pick up the Demon's Catalyst after winning, but that really wouldn't have made a difference anyway. I then get a whopping 1 level in Vitality, then take on the Millipede Angel. The boss isn't the difficult part of the fight, that would be the lava in the arena, but this time around I don't get knocked or pushed back into it, so the demon comes down pretty quickly. With his souls, I level attunement to 19 to get 1 more spell slot, then head back to Firelink to tell Laurentius that setting things on fire is cool and he gives me a glove. Weird family Christmas, but that's okay. This, of course, allows me to use Power Within, which I then equip, but obviously I'm not going to need for the next boss. Oh wow, this might be the first time I've ever died to the Chaos Witch. Well, can't have that. Not like I'm gonna need these casts anyway. Bed of Chaos, you know the drill. Pop the right nut, quit out. Pop the left nut, quit out. Exterminate bug, victory achieved. Vitality, my beloved. Hi Andre, sorry to do this. Okay, I deserve that. We talk out our differences like civilized warriors, and he takes a little nap, passing me the crest of Artorias, which I can then use to open the door of Artorias, allowing me to run through the fields of Artorias until I get to the grave of Artorias, which is guarded by Sif, dog of Artorias. Now, this fight had the potential to be problematic. Sif is actually kind of hard to hit with smaller spells, but I did the age-old strat of make the boss the entirety of my monitor, so I absolutely probably won't miss. You know, YouTubers, myself included, make emotional damage jokes here, but I do feel bad I can't even put her out of her misery in a single shot. Like, come on, just let her die already, me! I used those souls to get to 30 vitality and a few into dexterity. My plan was to try and hit the casting speed increase, but that apparently starts at like level 35, and I'm pretty far off of that, so I quickly abandoned my desire to cast like 8% faster. Now, I could take on the Four Kings now, but I wanted to wait a little longer as I doubt I could out DPS their timer, so instead I went to the Catacombs. And by went to the Catacombs, I of course meant I skipped the entire area as one does and just dropped down straight to Pinwheel. Now, if there was ever a run where Pinwheel could have shown what he was made of, it would be this one. While I still do a sizable chunk of his health bar per cast, he's not the 2 to 3 hit down that he normally is. Unfortunately for him, 40 seconds after the fight starts, he blew his one chance to impress his dead wife and child and is still just pinwheeled a minor inconvenience. He drops the Mask of the Mother. I knew if I didn't say, you'd all ask. Actually, now that I think about it, ask anyway. Comments are good for the YouTube algorithm. Now excuse me while I have some rather dry bread. Why do I feel like I should use Magic Missile to attack the darkness? Whatever, I warp out of the tomb and back to Firelink and head to the Undead Asylum. To do so though, first I must make like the memes of old, and egg. Is this what it feels like to be all-powerful? I make sure to grab the doll first so I don't forget it, then attempt to take the crest shield from Lemon, but he put up a hell of a fight for it. The reason I wanted it at all is because of its insane magic defense, which could prove useful if the Four Kings fight goes south. Speaking of going south, the floor of this arena collapses under the weight of my massive brain, letting me begin the next encounter, which is just the first encounter but spicier, or the Demon Fire Stage encounter but less red. Full disclosure, this fight is super boring. I mean, all Demonist thickest fights are, honestly, but since I don't have a bleed weapon, it's also slow as hell, but the round bottom demon with the boots with the fur goes down on the first try. I then put a single point into dexterity because I guess I hadn't given up that dream yet, then warp to the Chamber of the Princess where I blast Guinevere in her very easy to miss targets. And then the game world doesn't change to dark, What? So she's 100% dead, but Anor Londo is still light. Has anyone ever seen this before? Is it because I'm in Seamless? I even went down to the tomb to see if it was open, but it wasn't. After I returned and hung out in the room for a couple of seconds, the cutscene plays. Was it always tied to being in this room? Any normal game would tie the NPC dying to being the trigger, not the NPC dying and being in some world coordinate. But what do I know? It's not like I've developed any games or anything. Gwyndolin is not a hard fight, but he is a tedious one. I can only get 2 casts off before he teleports away. Could probably do more if the area wasn't dark, limiting my lock-on distance, but all it does is prolong the inevitable, as after running half a marathon, Dark Sun Gwyndolin becomes Dark Sun Gwyndolin. More dex? No. Intelligence? Yes. I then head upstairs to gaze upon some beautiful artwork, which of course brings me to the painted world of Ariamis. Shot through the heart, and you're to blame because you had a bow and some damn good aim. As I am not allowed to jump attack the butt in this run, I took a trip to the Bone Zone. It's not that bad though, since I know exactly where to go, which finally lands me in front of my queen, Priscilla. When she's invisible, I'm not able to lock onto her, but Miyazaki's love for feet betrays him once more as it allows me to semi-accurately see where she is. It does take 3 hits to make her visible again, but that's not really that big of a deal. I then spent like 2 minutes trying to cut off her tail so I can make a joke about it, but that's already weirdly tricky to do with a normal weapon, let alone this weird tiny magic ball attack. In fact, it took so long she actually recast her invisibility, something I only thought happened in Legend. Didn't save her though, as 2 more blasts brings her down. I make a quick detour to the Valley of Drix to grab the red Tearstone ring. I don't know if I'll need it, but it's better to have it, you know? Wow, 52 damage. I'm at 43 intelligence and have a ring that boosts sorceries, and all I got from these things was 52 damage? That does not bode well for Seath. The Hydra, fortunately, does not heavily resist magic, and 2 blasts is enough to take out a head. And, since this is a ranged attack, I don't need to play Bend Drown for the final head either. This also gets me the Dust Crown Ring, which might be useful, possibly, but more importantly, it lets the Golden Golem spawn in the cave nearby. For fun, I tried power with it 40 damage. I hit this thing for 40 damage, despite all my levels and power boosting gear. What in the holy damage Elden Ring? Hey Dusk, I heard you needed saving, and I just wanted to say I'm not like all those other sorcerers. Yeah, that tracks. Well, at least I can wear her clothes. No idea why she wouldn't talk to me. Unfortunately, the crown barely makes me too fat the fast roll, but with a single poppable soul I can get a point in endurance, and that fixes itself. I didn't really want to do Nito or the Four Kings yet, but I'm kinda running out of other options, so I figured I would head to the Duke's Archives. At least there's one more upgrade I can get there. This boar tried its absolute darndest to run me over, chasing me all the way up to where the elevator is, but sucks for it, the game devs made this opening just slightly too small. I make sure to magic paper cut this golem to death for the broken pendant and then continue on my way. Hey you big stupid dragon, get down here and fight me without your immortal crystal. You won't, you lizard-brained washed up third-rate sorcerer with fourth-rate spells. Best 2 out of 3. I wore the Ring of Sacrifice just because I picked it up earlier, letting me keep the souls in humanity, but here is where the run dies. Soul Arrow is not capable of hitting the Snake Man through the bars. I tried like many for a few attempts to see if I could jank cast it through the wall or if maybe some part of his hurtbox clips in, but I couldn't get it to work. Maybe it does, but I'll never find out. So I used the ancient magics of Beat with Stick. On my way down the stairs, these Japanese movie stars stop me and ask for an autograph, but I tell them I need to be on my way. I'm sorry, I'll give you the autograph. Ugh! I then grab the key and shut off the sick tunes and then head over to grab this other key and warp back to my prison cell, guards none the wiser. This lets me grab a Firekeeper soul, but slightly more importantly, free Logan, who will be important momentarily. And by momentarily, I mean right now. See, I could buy all of his spells, get his catalyst, finish his questline and stuff. Or I could just murder him. Now, this does not give me his catalyst, but it does give me the 10 crystallization catalyst and some other stuff that I don't care about. This catalyst has the best magic adjust stat in the game, but the drawback is that it halves your spell casts. Lucky for me, I went and picked up like a billion casts of Soul Arrow, almost like I planned that. Unfortunately for me, it's also slightly heavier than the regular catalyst, but some poppable souls and one level into endurance once again fixes that. The regular catalyst does 282 and the 10 crystallization does 385. You'll love to see it. I grab this Firekeeper soul and express ticket myself back to the bonfire, as well as this Firekeeper soul and not so rapid extract myself. Lastly, I head over to the Dark Moon Nidus because +5 looks better on the screen than +4. I don't know fam, it's Dark Souls 1, I hit R1 a lot in 1. With all my new power, I think it's finally time to take on Seath, the Scaleless Loser. I attacked a smidge early, but 189 is not great. That is super low considering all my buffs. What's crazy is that this isn't the lowest we will see it. Fortunately, for all his knowledge, Seath is really stupid and lumbers around the room, meaning I can just stand outside of his range and hit him with Soul Arrow until he's dead. I decided to level up Int a bit more. I'm not really sure how much a difference it would make, but hey, more brain is more gooder. Time to head to the Four Kings. Thankfully, I have range, so I don't have to worry about falling off here from a melee attack, and I can even one-shot the ghost without needing the 10 catalyst boost in power. Up top, Ingward gives me the key to the seal, which I then use to drain the city. I decided to just give the kings a shot without refilling my caster, as is mostly because I was lazy. And I mean, the damage is serviceable, I guess, nothing to write home about, but as long as the kings play ball, I can probably out DPS the timer. Sure enough, it was pretty much right on the dot. The first one died and the second one spawned. I can work with that. Nothing else really happened in the fight though. At the end, I didn't even realize they were about to die. I was so focused on the king's individual health bar, not the overall health bar, but hey, we take those. Which means it's time to prepare for Nito, so a return trip to Sins is in order, but I've always wondered what happens if you attack these demons. Yeah, I guess I should have expected that. Anyway, Sleepy Dragon Ring, then I let Patches put his boot up my ass so I can grab the Skull Lantern, which I can then trade for the Ring of Fog. Nito, you okay there, buddy? Need a hand? Come on, let's get you back to the coffin, Grandpa. Oh cool, this is another class of weapons that can block to avoid the Sword Enema attack. When Nito does finally lumber over, it's pretty easy to just walk backwards and hit him. He does manage to touch me with the tip of his sword, but I tell him that costs him extra and sent him to his death. I bring my int to 50, where it will probably set for the rest of the run, and now it's time for the DLC. I wanted to summon Dust to get Cast Light, but I can't find her summon sign, so I guess it's just Pendantless Manus. That's fine. First up is the Sanctuary Guardian. Right, I forgot everything in the DLC has like 8 times as much defense as the base game. That's fun, and this is the easy boss. Now, I didn't use Power Within to be fair, but it took nearly 2/3 of my cast to bring him down. I have suddenly lost all confidence in this spell. Well, whatever, let's just move on to Knight Artorias of the Artorias. Okay, the damage is alright. I mean, I am in Power Within, so that will drop off hard after like a minute, but as long as I can do sufficient damage in that time, it'll work out. The problem, of course, is that he can dodge my spells. The good news is that Soul Arrow is one of the faster casts in the game, so as long as I do it relatively fast after his animation, I can sneak the hit in. Thanks to Power Within, it only took about 10 more casts than the Guardian did, which is good, easy first try. For Manus, a Power Within boosted spell does 124 damage, meaning I would need 54 casts to land to clear his 6,665 health. That is not realistic considering that's with Power Within. I'm not even sure I could cast 54 times before the buff wore off, let alone factoring in him moving and stuff. I mean, sure, with counter damage it could be lowered, but that is equally as unrealistic. Without Power Within, it's only 88 damage, so 76 casts, which with the Dust Crown Ring is doable, but it's still a pretty big ask. Plus, that of course has me run the risk of being one-shot without any extra damage. With RTSR, it's 237 damage, which is only 29 casts, a much more reasonable number, but of course the danger is I'll just get one-shot myself. Power Within and RTSR would obviously do more damage, but I would really only get 1 or 2 casts off before needing to heal out of it. I kinda wish I hadn't leveled Vitality, and then I could do the Sanctus Cursed Uber Hyper Mode strat. Anyway, in this attempt, I actually deliberately took damage so I could get into RTSR, and man, I was hanging on by a dream. Unfortunately, so was he. This spell was slightly outside of his range, and I panicked. I tried to run at him, and if I just healed, I might have lived, but that's how it goes sometimes. In case you were wondering though, it's 332 damage with both boosts, which is only 21 casts, but again, there's no way for me to maintain that form. Funnily enough, I did end up being put into RTSR range, but I was scared it would kill me, so I healed out of it right as the buff wore off. But that's nothing deliberately letting myself being pancaked won't fix. Really, as I'm at range, the only attacks I need to worry about are the magic ones, but FromSoft pulled a smart game design decision, and Manus' 3 magic attacks all have a different animation on startup. So, as long as I memorize those and stick at a range that keeps me close enough, if it's the ring one, I should be fine, and sure enough, the Father of the Abyss eventually bites it. At this point, I actually put a level into Resistance because I wanted the increase in physical defenses and because nothing else really mattered at this point. Hawkeye Lisa then tries to convince me to do a Great Bow only run by blasting a dragon out of the sky. And with that, it is time for the hardest fight in the whole run, Black Dragon Kalameet. Without any buffs, I do 74 damage. Kalameet has 5400 health. Translation, without buffs, it is mathematically impossible to beat him with Soul Arrow. A regular Catalyst Soul Arrow does 46 damage, which would take a whopping 118 casts to bring him down. Theoretically possible, but that would be pretty unlikely as Kalameet actually can jump out of the way of my attacks. At first, I thought about Power Within and regular shots. That's 65 damage a blast, so 84 casts. Much more reasonable, except of course Power Within would eventually turn off, then I'd be back to the lower damage. In the end though, I decided to just use RTSR. It's easy to set up with the Dust Crown ring, just wear it, hit the first platform, then jump all the way to the bottom and switch it out for the red Tearstone ring. This brings my damage to a whopping 185 per shot with the 10 Catalyst, meaning it would only take 30 casts to bring the dragon down. Way better than nearly all of them. The drawback being, of course, that Kalameet could merely sneeze in my direction and it would kill me. So this fight by itself took nearly an hour. The problem was, of course, skill issues. Most of his attacks are punishable with a single Soul Arrow, the exceptions being when he stands on his hind legs and breathes fire down, that's safe enough for 2, or when he does the long, slow side-to-side fire breath. The problem there though is that you have to get super close to him, and as we all know, he has those pre-Dark Souls 2 alpha hitboxes. Eventually, I got his health super low with more than enough casts to finish him off, so I actually healed out of RTSR just in case. Wouldn't be the first time I had a patented Doomwolf choke. But just a minute later, the dragon is slain. I even did it with the shitty staff just for the funny. With that, only Gwyn remains. Usually he's a joke, but I was kinda worried about him, for you see, with all the magical things the Catalyst allows me to do, it cannot parry. So, you know, it's F tier in the usefulness category. Jokes aside, parryless Gwyn is actually a fight. Well, not a particularly hard one, but far more so than when I can just limp noodle arm slap his fire greatsword away. But I was hopeful I could AI loop him like you do with Darkbead. Okay, he does not care about soul arrows. You can actually make him do it, but either the spell is just a touch too slow or the lack of horizontal spread on it means it won't work the same way. However, on my second attempt, I did find the secret sauce. If you're backing away from him, he can do several things. Two specific ones to look for are the grab and the slow slash. The grab is pretty rare as you're already far away, but it is an easy opportunity to hit him, but the slow slash is pretty common. And if you time it right and start the cast before his animation finishes, there's just enough time for it to come out and hit him before he tries to jump away. This is what allowed me to seal the deal, bringing an end to Gwyn. At this point, the hero in me said to turn the world to darkness, but the scholar in me couldn't let all the knowledge be lost, so the cycle of fire will continue.
Hey everyone, thanks for watching this week's video. I know this wasn't a particularly difficult challenge, but it's one that's been in my backlogs for like over 2 years, and I'm currently working on something that's way harder, just like magnitudes and magnitudes of tons of millions of times harder. So it was nice to take a little break like this, right? Like it was good to just kind of sit back and be like, oh yes, R1 until everything falls over. And it worked great, up until like Kalameet and Manus, which I'm not surprised by. Like the DLC bosses to just have an absurd amount of health and defenses compared to the regular bosses, but it was fun. It was a nice little time. It was a good little time. I enjoyed this quaint little break that I had. And here we have this week's grand champion, Stain. Congratulations.